Hey friends, Corinne Sutherland here with Sweet and Sassy Stamps and Creative Worship. I am sharing with you today a page that I did in Psalm 18 where I'm focusing on God, my rock and my fortress and my deliverer. I'm using Distress Oxides with the smushing technique again. This is where I'm taking the ink pad and just smushing it right on top of a piece of acetate. And I'm going to spritz this with water and then take just a regular paintbrush and just kind of spread that nice wet ink all over my piece of acetate. As you'll see here as well, I'm just going to pick this piece of acetate up. It's going to be really juicy, and I'm just going to really quickly flip it over. As you can see, it sort of drips on my page, and just flip it over and smush it right onto my page. You can see how it's very wet. It kind of it goes on very, very wet, and I have to sop a little bit of that up. But I'm going to take my heat tool and just dry that. So once it's all dry, I'm going to take a little bit more of the blue ink and do the same thing over again with the smushing technique. So I'm spreading out the ink all over my acetate, and I'm just going to flip that over and add a little bit more blue all over my page, just so I can get a little bit more of that color on there. I'm going to dry that second layer. I did skip through some of that so that you don't have to see that on the video. Now I'm going to take my Tumbled glass ink again, and unfortunately you cannot see what I'm doing in the bottom corner there, but I'm actually adding a little bit more blue to the bottom of my page by directly sponging the ink onto the bottom corner there. Now I'm going to take my stamps. I have already placed these all on the block in the way that I want them to be. This is my Mighty Fortress stamp set, and it has lots of fantastic images in it and sentiments or words that you can mix and match for your Bible journaling and card making. I have all of these already positioned on my block. I'm just going to kind of line it up, make sure I'm going to stamp it exactly where I want it. That's what I'm kind of doing here. And now I'm going to grab my archival ink and I'm going to ink up my stamp. Now I did place all of these stamps on the page ahead of time just so I could sort of line everything up the way I wanted it, and that's why you see numerous stamps on one block. I will tell you though, because of the fact that I'm stamping in a Bible that has some bulk in it, I'm not going to get a great impression here. Unfortunately, this Bible that I'm working in really does have a lot of bulk, and it makes it difficult to get that perfect impression unless I have something really hard underneath my page, which unfortunately I did not this time. So I'm just going to come in with my micron pen and I'm just going to fill in the lines where the ink did not give a full transfer. Psalm 18 is a psalm of David, and he is praising the Lord and thanking the Lord for delivering him from the hand of his enemies and from the hand of Saul. And so this is a really great psalm when we're going through really any trials that we're going through, even though we may not be going through situations like David where, our lives are in danger and, someone is literally trying to kill us, or an enemy is super obvious, as in this psalm or in this situation. But our enemies can look different, a little different from this. That doesn't mean that we don't have them. So this is an encouraging psalm when we think about the fact that the devil is always on the prowl, trying to trip us up, trying to ruin our testimony, trying to destroy what God has perhaps done. And we need to remember that God is our rock and our fortress. He is our deliverer. He's our strength and our high tower. He protects us from the enemy. And I just really love the picture of a tower, a strong tower for this particular psalm. I'm using right now some alphabet stamps just to fill in some of the words that I want on my page here, the two different my's that you see. I'm stamping those with the Bitty Mini Alpha, and I'm going to actually write in the word my for the next little phrase, for the next two little phrases. And then I'm just showing you here what I'm using for those things. The micron pen was what I'm using to write, what I'm going to be using to write here. And then also the ink pad that I've been using is the Archival ink pad. But I'm just going to write in my strength, and I'm going to write in my for my high tower, and then I will stamp the word and. I'm going to stamp also from the Bitty Mini Alpha. This alpha is really fun because it has little connector words, little conjunctions that you can use in a fun hand-lettered font. So I'm going to stamp that in there, and then I'll write in that the other word my with my micron pen. Now I'm going to take my little Hickory Smoke Distress ink, and I'm going to use that to color in watercolor, basically, in my high tower. And I'm using my Holtz Waterbrush, and I'm just picking up the ink. I actually smushed the little ink pad onto an acrylic block, and I'm using that as my palette, and I'm just coloring in, picking up that ink with the water brush, and then coloring in my tower image. This is just kind of a fun way, and the Archival ink is great with watercolors. It does not run or anything like that. So I'm just going in and watercoloring this tower. Now I'm just going to give this a quick shot of heat to get it dry so that I can come in with a second layer of color. I like to add shading to my coloring, and so I'm just going to do that again with the water brush and some more of the Distress ink. Just gives it some little bit of definition. Then I'm going to come in with another quick shot of heat and get that nice and dry. And then I'm going to grab a fun stencil. And I just thought it would be fun to add a little bit more of this green color in here, and just a little bit of texture. So I'm just taking my Jumbo Sponge Dauber and the Distress Oxide ink, the crushed olive, and I'm just adding some little triangle textures to my page. I'm not quite satisfied with the textures that I've gotten here, even though I do like the pop of color. So I thought it'd be fun to grab the brick stamp from our Texture Tiles 1 stamp set, because it goes well with the tower image, and just add a little bit of brick texture to my page. And I'm using again the Distress ink, the Hickory Smoke color, which is like a gray, and just coming in and kind of going all over the place wherever I feel like adding a little bit of texture with this brick stamp. Once I finish up the stamping here, I'm going to grab my micron pen and begin underlining the verses that I want to highlight here in this passage, which are verses 2 and 3. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my strength, in whom I will trust, my buckler and the horn of my salvation, and my high tower. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from mine enemies. And then verse 6, In my distress I called upon the Lord and cried unto my God, and he heard my voice out of his temple, and my cry came before him, even into his ears. Then later in this chapter, verses 30 through 37, I thought really went well with this as well. As for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is tried. He is a buckler to all those that trust in him. For who is God save the Lord? Or who is a rock save our God? It is God that girdeth me with strength, and maketh my way perfect. He maketh my feet like hinds' feet, and setteth me upon my high places. He teacheth my hands to war, so that a bow of steel is broken by mine arms. Thou hast also given me the shield of thy salvation, and thy right hand hath holden me up, and thy gentleness hath made me great. Thou hast enlarged my steps under me, that my feet did not slip. I have pursued mine enemies and overtaken them, neither did I turn again until they were consumed. I just really felt those verses were powerful, and I also thought it would be really cool to just add a couple more images to this page near those verses that just kind of draw your eye and your attention to some other things that God did here for David. And so I do grab another stamp set, and I'm going to add a shield, and I'm going to add some shoes or boots to go along with those different verses there. The stamp set that I'm going to grab for these other images is called Armor of God. It's a great set to complement the Mighty Fortress stamp set. And I'm just going to stamp the shield by verse 35, which talks about the shield of salvation. And then I'm also going to stamp the boots down by verses 36 and 37 that talk about his steps and his feet. And I just thought those were great images to, again, really focus on those verses. Once I finish stamping those images, I am actually going to turn off the camera and finish this page off screen, off camera. But I will share the finished page with you here at the very end. I appreciate you watching so much today, and I really hope that you'll like and subscribe below and leave me a comment if you wish. Until next time, many blessings.